Think of a number between 1 and 10. Got it? Now ask yourself, did you actually choose that number? Or did it just appear in your head and you claimed it as your own? You feel like the author of your life, the main character, the one holding the controller. But the data suggests something entirely different. You aren't making the decisions. You are just the one being notified about them. Let's look at the machinery. In the 1980s, a neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet ran a very simple, very disturbing experiment. He hooked subjects up to an electroencephalogram, an EEG, to measure their brainwaves. He put a highly precise clock in front of them, a clock with a dot moving rapidly in a circle. He gave them one basic instruction. Flick your wrist whenever you feel the urge to do so, completely spontaneously. Just note exactly where the dot is on the clock when you make the conscious decision to move. It sounds straightforward, but the results dismantled the fundamental concept of free will. Libet found a spike in brain activity, a buildup of electrical charge in the motor cortex that he called the readiness potential. This spike happened before the wrist moved. That makes sense. But it also happened before the person decided to move, by about 1/3 of a second. Your brain starts preparing the physical action. Then later, you experience the conscious thought, I will move my wrist now. You think you are issuing the command. You are not. You are just receiving a receipt for a transaction that already happened in the dark.
Some philosophers argue that 1/3 of a second is just a measurement error. It's too small to matter. It doesn't prove anything about complex human behavior. Fast forward to 2008. At the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences in Germany, neuroscientist John Dylan Haynes decided to update Libet's work. He put subjects in a functional MRI scanner. He gave them a button in each hand, left and right. He told them to press either button whenever
they're breathing.
The fMRI monitored the blood flow in their brain in real time. Haynes wasn't looking for 1/3.
They're breathing.
He found that the brain activity predicting the choice began 8 seconds before the conscious decision. 8 seconds. In the world of neuroscience, 8 seconds is an eternity. The researchers could look at the scanner. They could know which button you were going to press before you knew it yourself. Think about what that means for your life. Every major choice you've ever made. Who to marry, what career to pursue, what to say in a heated argument. The neurological machinery in the dark, silent vault of your skull crunched the data. It weighed the biological imperatives, the past traumas, the genetic predispositions, the environmental stimuli. It made a calculation. And then it projected a thought onto the screen of your consciousness. And you, sitting in the audience, thought you were on the script. You didn't. You were an avatar. You were executing commands generated by a system you have absolutely no access to. The brain is the hardware. The unconscious is the software. And your conscious speaking self, it's just the user interface. If you are an avatar, what is the world you are walking through? Cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman spent decades studying visual perception. He wanted to know how our brains construct reality. He ran evolutionary game theory simulations, hundreds of thousands of generations of artificial life forms. He wanted to see what happens when organisms that perceive reality exactly as it is compete against organisms that perceive reality only as it is useful. The organism that sees the truth goes extinct.
I can't find the way out of here.
Single time.
Evolution does not care about truth. Evolution only cares about survival.
I can't find the
and
way out of here.
reproduction. Seeing the actual fundamental nature of reality takes too much processing power. It is slow. It is incredibly inefficient. If you see a tiger jumping out of the brush, you don't need to perceive the quantum fields interacting with light photons. You don't need to understand the complex biological makeup of the predator. You just need an icon that says, run. Hoffman calls this the interface theory of perception. Look at the device you are watching this on.
Maybe it's a phone, maybe it's a laptop. On your screen, there are folders, there are apps, there is a trash can. If you want to delete a file, you drag the document icon into the trash can icon. Is the file actually a tiny rectangular piece of paper? No. Is the trash
I can't stay here.
They are metaphors. They are visual representations designed to hide the staggering complexity of the reality beneath them. The reality of the computer is billions of microscopic transistors flipping on and off, endless lines of binary code, voltages of electricity moving through silicon. If you had to manually toggle transistors to send an email, you would never do it. The interface hides the truth so you can use the machine. Hoffman points to the Australian jewel beetle to prove how rigid this interface can be. The male beetle is programmed by evolution to look for a specific set of features to find a mate. Dimpled, glossy, and brown. For millions of years, this worked perfectly. The only thing in the outback that was dimpled, glossy, and brown was a female jewel beetle. Then, humans started tossing empty beetle bottles out of their cars. Specifically, a brand of beetle called Stubbies. The glass was dimpled, glossy, and brown. The male beetles flocked to the bottles. They tried to mate with the glass until they baked to death in the sun. They completely ignored actual female beetles walking right past them. Because the beetle doesn't see reality, it only sees its interface. It sees a biological shock. The bottle triggered the movement icon on the beetle's desktop more intensely than the real thing.
We laugh at the beetle, but the mathematics of evolution show we are doing the exact same thing. Your entire reality is a desktop. Space and time, physical objects, colors and sounds, these are not the fundamental features of the universe. They're just the icons on your evolutionary headset. A tomato isn't actually red. Red is just a property your brain assigns to a specific wavelength of light to help you distinguish ripe fruit from green leaves. The redness only exists inside the rendering engine of your mind. You are an avatar walking through a 3D interface. Everything around you is a data structure designed to keep the avatar alive long enough to pass on its code. You have never seen the real world. You are trapped behind a screen. But sometimes, the game glitches. We all know the feeling. You walk into a room and feel a sudden heavy sense of having been there before. Déjà vu. Or you remember a historical event perfectly. You remember the spelling of a brand. You remember a line from a movie. And then you find out it never happened that way. The Mandela Effect. People love to build grand sci-fi theories around these moments. Parallel universes overlapping. A literal matrix changing its code. But the scientific truth is much more intimate and much more unsettling. Your brain is not a camera passively recording the world. It is a prediction engine. In neuroscience, this is known as predictive processing, championed by researchers like Anil Seth and Carl Friston. Your skull is a dark, silent box. Your brain has no direct access to the outside world. It only receives electrical signals from your sensory organs. To survive, it cannot afford to wait for data to arrive, process it, and then react. That latency would get you killed. Instead, your brain constantly guesses what is going to happen next. It generates a highly detailed, continuous hallucination of the next second. And then it compares that internal hallucination to the incoming sensory data. If the data matches the prediction, you experience it as normal reality. Your brain doesn't actually process the room you are sitting in right now. It already predicted the walls, the ambient light, the device in your hand. It just checks for errors. It only spends energy paying attention when something changes, when the prediction is wrong. Think about the physical blind spot in your vision. Where the optic nerve connects to your retina, there are absolutely no photoreceptors. You have two actual holes in your field of vision, but you never see two black voids floating in front of you. Because your brain simply copy-pastes the surrounding background and fills in the hole. It photoshops your reality in real time. It guesses what should be there, and you accept it as the unvarnished truth. But what happens when the predictive engine stutters? Déjà vu is not a memory of a past life. It is a caching error in your brain's memory systems. Incoming sensory information accidentally bypasses short-term memory and writes directly to long-term memory. You perceive the present moment, but your brain processes it as something being retrieved from the deep past. You are feeling a glitch in your own memory pipeline. The Mandela Effect is a shared optimization error. Our brains desperately prefer patterns. They prefer stories that make sense. They prefer symmetry over chaos. When a cultural memory is clunky or illogical, the predictive engine naturally smooths it out. It fills in the blanks with what logically should be there. And because human brains all run on the exact same basic hardware, millions of us apply the exact same patch to the exact same faulty memory. We aren't shifting between timelines. We are just all experiencing the same predictable bugs in our firmware. You are navigating an interface constructed entirely of educated guesses, and occasionally the mask slips. You catch a glimpse of the machinery struggling to keep the illusion seamless. If your choices are made for you before you know them, if your reality is just a simplified evolutionary user interface, if your perceptions are just controlled hallucinations constantly prone to error, then what is the point? Why build this elaborate setup? Why trap consciousness inside an avatar?
I keep filming
Think
so I
about
don't
the
forget.
nature of any game, or a story, or any meaningful experience.
I keep filming
They
so I
all
don't forget.
require one fundamental, non-negotiable element: limitation.
I keep filming so I don't
Imagine a
forget.
state of absolute, unbounded consciousness. No physical boundaries. No laws
I keep
of
filming so I don't
thermodynamics.
forget.
No linear flow of time. Total access to all information instantaneously. In that state, nothing can happen. There is no journey to take. There is no discovery to make. There is no surprise. To know everything at once is to experience absolutely nothing. A game is only fun because you cannot walk through walls. A story is only compelling because the characters do not know the ending. The restrictions are what create the space for the experience. The avatar must be limited. It must be constrained by space and time. It must be blind to the underlying code of the universe. It must deeply believe that its choices are its own. Otherwise, there are no stakes to the game. The illusion of the self. The illusion of free will. The illusion of the physical world. These aren't malicious traps. They are the necessary parameters for an experience to take place at all. You need a narrow bandwidth. You need the desktop interface. Because if you opened all the files at once, if you saw the raw, terrifying data of the universe without the filter of your ego, your fragile, local sense of self would instantly dissolve. The avatar would crash. So we arrive at the edge. The brain generates the biological choice. The evolutionary software renders the interface. The predictive engine projects the hallucination we call reality. But look closely at this dynamic. Look at the structure of the setup. An interface implies a user. A hallucination implies an observer. If you are not the thoughts appearing in your head, if you are not the biological impulses of your nervous system, if you are not the history of the character you've been playing all your life, then who is sitting in the dark? Who is looking at the screen? When the brain finally stops computing, when the interface powers down for the last time, what exactly remains? Something is experiencing this limitation. Something is quietly watching the avatar move.
I'll see you when the game pauses.